Hatsune Miku and the Project Diva series are something that you might not have heard about, but have certainly affected the internet culture that we live in today. In this game, there are a few standard controllers. You got your classic DualShock 4, your Joy-Cons when you want to spice things up a bit, and you got your Switch Pro controller, which has the absolutely most disgusting D-pad! Being an arcade game, there's also a little controller that you can get. Never mind. You can also join Satan. Being a video game with some notoriety, some people like to play it with very weird controllers. Hell, I bet someone's tried to even beat it with just a single button. That's literally Tycho! Anyways, let's look at some weird controllers that I like to use for Project Diva. First up, the Wii Classic controller. While sticks are a bit close, the buttons are actually super nice. The triggers, while they have a big travel distance, are super nice. However, the ZL and ZR buttons are pretty awful. In normal gameplay, it's pretty alright. I'd say my hand gets a bit uncomfortable after a bit of play, but if you have one lying around, you should try it. Unfortunately, the fact that it's the size of an SNES controller really hurts my hands. But luckily, we got the Wii Classic Controller Pro, a pro controller for all your pro needs that has bigger grips and good ZL and ZR buttons. In actual gameplay, it's pretty fine. Latency is a bit of an issue, however, if you go for a G-Bros adapter for 15 bucks and you have one laying around, it's pretty good. Won't stop me from sucking at the game though. All in all, not a bad controller, not even that weird. But let's head over to Project Diva Arcade, mainly because I couldn't get this to work with my Switch. That's right, a 3DS. I got this to work with some homebrew, and I'll link it all down in the description. It actually plays pretty fine though. I think I might be the first person to play Project Diva with a 3DS. Unfortunately, I kinda suck with Switch button prompts, but it doesn't stop it from hurting my hand a ton after some use. I bet if you had a 3DS XL, would be pretty good. Next is the GameCube controller. Pretty good for Smash, not good for rhythm games. Its weird button layout, combined with its disgusting D-pad that you can almost press like a single button, like what? Leads to not a great experience. I will say though, that doing sliders with the shoulder buttons on this, super satisfying. This is gross. Ugh. At this point, I'd probably add the N64 controller. While it does have one stick, its buttons are pretty solid, and if you hold it like this, it's almost like an SNES controller. But unfortunately, I don't have a connector that will actually work with the Switch. It just doesn't work. Speaking of SNES controller though, it's actually a pretty solid controller. While there aren't any analog sticks, the buttons feel crisp and the D-pad is something that I haven't experienced from any other controller in a long time. While this is the SNES Classic controller, it feels great, and it's even easier to hook up to the Switch. I just plug it into a Wiimote. Something cool I found from using it though, is that you can actually do multi-note sliders on it. I don't know why, but it just works. Now I wouldn't recommend it, but it's nice to try, especially considering that you could clear most songs with it. But what if you wanted to make it twice as hard to lose? That's where the 8-bit Do Zero comes in. Honestly, it plays the same as the SNES controller, although the D-pad is beyond disgusting. You can go fast on it, I guess, but honestly, wouldn't recommend using an SNES controller instead, unless for whatever reason you want to play it even more portably. This really ain't it, Chief. But what if we want to meme it up even more? That's where the original Wii Remote comes in. You got your A, your 1, your 2, and your B button, which is enough to do ABXY. We're going to go back in the Project Diva and use a mod made by GenoX to make Project Diva for the Wii, which is terrible. It's disgusting. I never want to see it ever again. While fast sections are actually kind of easy, when you get into the technical bits, it's impossible. I suppose if you took the time to get the muscle memory in, it could actually work, but at the same time, why do you want to get that muscle memory exactly? But I was able to clear the song on hard on my first try, which I'd say is pretty alright. Still wouldn't recommend it, but it's there. I still don't understand who'd want to use it. I mean, maybe if you had a ton of Wii emotes? But now I got something that will truly blow your mind. An NES controller. I mapped the D-pad to ABXY and the A and B button to sliders, and it works surprisingly well. You can even hit 4-note multi-notes by rolling the D-pad really fast. Unfortunately, some 2-note multi-notes, mainly up, down, and left, right, don't work, which is really frustrating, which means you can't perfect every song. But it's really good. I'm surprised it even worked at all. This is truly perfect. Maybe someone will try perfecting a couple songs with this controller. In fact, I'd like to, but I just don't have the sanity for this. Overall, I'm pretty impressed that I was able to clear song. It's pretty fun and an interesting challenge. But there is one controller that will rule them all. It's the button!